So I grabbed that one, and then I swung the detector there again, and there was another big loud signal. I got two right there in the same spot, and everywhere I swung the detector, it was just going off. And I could see gold just sitting on the ground. Just took my hat off because they wouldn't fit in my little specking jar that you have to put your little match head pieces in normally. They wouldn't even fit in that jar.
You've got to get a bigger boat.
Yeah. Yep, I think we're going to need a bigger jar. So I got that 23 ounce and that 9.5 ouncer and heaps of other bits and pieces. And then next minute, like 54 ounces in the Cobra hat. So we went home, never slept any that night. Went back out there like crack of dawn, before crack of dawn, picked up another 25 ounces in about an hour's time.
Welcome to the Beers with a Miner podcast. My name is Mad Mumsy and I've been driving the huge dump trucks in Australian open cut mines for over 10 years now. I wish I had $1 for everyone who said to me, "How does a little thing like you drive those big trucks? You must be rich. How do I get a job doing that?" My mining friends are asked these questions all the time too. This is what started the Mad Mumsy journey to share stories and tips from living a mining lifestyle and to let others know what it's really like. Tune in each episode as I sit down for a relaxed chat, usually over a few beers, with a fellow miner. Women and blokes with various experience, roles and opinions share their lessons and stories with you. Not everyone is cut out to be a miner, but why not? What does it take to thrive and survive in this industry? Now, let's dig in. Get it? Dig? Mining? Crack me up. Hello and welcome to Beers with a Miner podcast episode number 53. Today I'm sitting down again with Will and we're going to talk all about prospecting, which was what we were going to talk about in part one. But as you know, if you've listened to episode 52, his mining journey was just full of golden nuggets and crocodiles and all sorts of things, so I really needed to chat to him longer about that. So this is a few weeks later and we're sitting down having a yarn over a few beers. It is raining here. We're in central Queensland and we've had horrendous heat wave and then fires. So unprecedented is the word of the week. And people keep saying it because it's true. It's never been like that before. So this rain is welcome, welcome, welcome. If it annoys you in the background, too bad, because we're in Queensland and we really needed this rain. And it's actually coming from the remnants of Cyclone Owen. So we had a heat wave and then bushfires and a cyclone, but it didn't quite reach the coast, but now we are getting some beautiful rain out of it. And not only is it going to put out the fires, it will help to get everything growing back again for the livestock, for the cane, and just to be able to go outside and breathe without smoke in your lungs and is amazing. So anyway, enough of me. Let's get on with part two with Will. I hope you enjoy this chat as much as we did. Cheers. So here we are again, Will. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
Welcome back to the Beers with a Miner podcast.
Thank you.
It's taken us a
Thanks
couple of
for
weeks.
having me. Yeah, well, I'm a busy man, I got dirt to move and, gold to find, dig up and, fish to catch, crabs. So, you're lucky you got me, actually.
Oh, thanks. I feel privileged. And you just showed me a whole heap of photos before we got started and some of your nuggets and stuff. So I hit my camera on record and you'll be able to see those pictures and videos when you go to the show notes, which will be madmumsy.com/beers53, the number 53. If you haven't caught up with part one, which was an epic journey into Will's mining journey, and it does go for nearly a couple of hours, but we really enjoyed our time together and he had some awesome stories. And one of the main reasons I wanted to get him on the podcast was to talk about his prospecting, which is when we first met each other at the
Caelan Fishing Classic.
The Caelan Fishing Classic, that piqued my interest, and I thought, we'll come on the podcast, we'll have a chat about it. And then we didn't even get to that till right at the end when I said, what are you going to do when you get out of mining? What's your plan B? So we'll go from there, Will. Let's do it. Cheers.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, well, that's it. Been mining that for a long time, but been prospecting as I've been going along, just as a hobby sort of thing, mostly. Yeah, and I got into it when I was probably about 18. That's when I was up Weeper then, and that's when I first run into my uncle, who I hadn't seen since I was probably about 10-year-old or something. And, and we just hit it off, and... Yeah, and he'd been doing that for, ever and a day, and showed me the ropes. Like, I started, from the beginning, like, learn how to use a gold pan, and then once you see those first little specks come through the sand and gleaming at you, that's it. You're hooked for life. You get the gold bug.
Get the gold bug.
Yeah.
And it still hasn't gone away.
No, it's a bit like a disease, But once you get it, that's it.
But it's a good disease.
Yeah, and it's and like you don't like I showed you some pictures of that and some some nuggets there, but you don't always just get big lots like that. But it does go to show that that it is out there still.
Mm.
But it's getting harder, like with all the modern technology, with the metal detectors and that, because they go deeper and and smaller. So yeah, it's all the surface stuff is getting picked up gradually. But I mean, but they were probably saying that 20, 30 years ago, like when I moved the towers there in about 97 there, an old fella said that to me that there's not much gold now, it's all gone, and then. A couple of days later, I found that 75-ounce patch. So it just goes to show, there's still the odd patches out there if you're keen and dedicated and put the time in. But it's worked for me because I've always just enjoyed being outdoors anyway. And you get a bit of exercise, and you're not only just prospecting for gold, but as you've seen at my place, I got a lot of trinkets like relics and rabbit traps and. And it was a funny one, actually, too, because I seen that on Russell Coit there a few years ago where he's given a rundown on how to prospect, and he's showing old mate and he gets a bit of a signal and definitely something metal there, and digs down a little bit more, and then next minute you only see sort of, from his waist up, but he's having a feel around in the dirt that he's just dug with the pick, and then next minute you hear this snap, and he comes up with this rabbit trap on his hand. And I thought, shit, that could happen, but like, it hadn't happened to me yet, but it could.
Yeah, an old rabbit trap down.
Yeah, it was like when my uncle was up to Cape York there years ago, after the wet season, he was the first one there to like try and get across to the goldfields that way. It's had all the wet and banks caving in, so if you can be the first one to get in there, you're going to clean up, with all the dirt that's broken in off the banks and that, and some new gold breaks up and that comes out in the creek. And as he's going down through the cutting, he's seen this bit of a round shape sticking out of the cutting, and he goes, oh, that's interesting. I wasn't there this trip, he was just telling me about it. And and it's round, so he's thinking, Jesus Christ, buddy, looks like a bloody dinosaur egg or something. So he starts digging around it with his pick, and then it's getting bigger and bigger, and then next minute it dawned on him what it was. It was a bloody bomb. Yeah, that they must have dropped there like in 1940s and that, because they had a lot of airstrips and that all up the Cape York and that, and they must have been driving through there, and same thing in the wet season and boggy, and had a hard time getting up the creek, and they'd like, let's get rid of a bit of gear here, and just turfed it out, and then next minute, 30, 40 years later, then But he rung the police, or told the police when he got back in town. They went out and sent the army out there and dug it up and that, yeah. Yeah, so prospecting's not just prospecting gold. There's other things come along, adventures and things, and it wouldn't have been much adventure if he hit it with a pick and it blew up, I suppose.
No.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't be able to tell anyone either.
But I have heard stories too of other people putting picks through, like 50 cal projectiles and things like that, cases and that, yeah. So, yeah.
It's something to be aware of when you're doing it.
But I like just, like I say, you get all the old relics and that, like up Cape York there, years ago I found two really old padlocks, like the ones where you put the key in the front of them, and they both were locked together, you know, and I've still got them today.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're hanging up under me shed up there.
Did they have the key?
No, that's what I was annoyed about. Yeah, and then I got a couple like pair of old blacksmith tongs, you know, where they used to hang on the steel and stuff and put it in the fires, and yeah. So yeah, you get all sorts of stuff.
And in the little collection that you were showing us in the video on the show notes, you'll be able to see that. Were some Chinese
Chinese coins. Yep.
Yeah, tell us a bit more about those.
Yeah, well, like I was saying, when you first find them, they're dirty and that, obviously, and they just look like a washer. So I think I probably threw a few of them away in the early days, and then it wasn't until my uncle pointed out that, because I think he asked me because we used to split up a bit, you know, like when we went prospecting, so cover a bit more ground, and then if I got something, well, he could come over there, or if he got something, I'll go over where he is, you know. And then he said, how'd you go? And I said, oh, nothing, just a bloody washer, you know. And then he's like, oh, you know, you should have checked it out. It could have been a Chinese coin. And I go, oh, really? And then after that, I started washing them, and that, yeah. So, and I actually got a bit more of a story on those Chinese coins. I was with this lady about 5 years ago, and she kind of like had everything, you know, and it was her 50th. So I actually thought, well, what do you get somebody who's sort of got everything, you know? So I actually had a bit of a think about it, and I got two of those Chinese coins, and they were both dated 1866. I took them into a jeweler, and they're pretty dirty looking, you know, like, and then I told him what I wanted done, so I got them and a couple of little nuggets I had, like, put onto the Chinese coins, and some, like, what do you call them, like sheep shank sort of earring things, you know, the long,
yeah,
and
just hook through,
yeah,
kind of.
and he done them up for me, and and them Chinese coins, man, like, because they're what are they? They're actually copper, I think they're made out of, so they just come up so sparkling, eh? And then the little gold nugget, you know, on the bottom of them, and she was blown away, like, because, you know, like, she's probably the only one getting around with. So, you know, everybody can go and buy something the same as someone else has got, but no one will ever have them ones, you know. Yeah. They will now when they hear my story, then everyone will be running around doing it.
Yeah, that's it.
So.
So you don't just find your gold and so what other? Did you ever do the other stuff? What else is out there? Sapphires.
You got all your gems and all that. No, I never really got into in that side of it, you know. Obviously, I've known a bit about it and read about it and run into people out there, but it's something that didn't really interest me back then, but I'm probably leaning towards that side of thing, get into that a little bit more. I went out like Sapphire and Ruby Vale and all that years ago, just for a bit of a look when we were living at Claremont. And then over the years I've just been running into more people that are into it, so it was probably more I didn't really know enough about it in the early days. Well, I used to buy what you call the Gem and Treasure magazine, and give you stories in there, you know, like, I'll say, for instance, that story that I found that big patch, you know, years ago. Well, I could have put that in there, you know, like, so then people would be reading my story, you know, but I'm just going to tell it as it is now.
Because podcasting is the new way to go.
That's it, yeah. There's a terrible thing about the Titanic, wasn't it? I just heard about that the other day, yeah.
What?
That's how far behind I am.
Oh, right, yeah. I was just thinking whether to bring up, actually, yesterday they arrested someone because of a podcast. Did you see that on the news?
No.
Yes, the Teacher's Pet podcast. And it's a cold case. It's all over the news here in Australia at the moment.
Oh, right. Well, I don't watch the news, so that's why I don't know. No, it's too depressing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I watch documentaries and happy stuff. And
Well, you're bound to see documentary on this at some stage.
Yep.
Yeah. But 37 years they've arrested him.
Yeah,
and they expect to charge him today.
Yeah,
so,
right.
But that's ongoing. But a lot of that came because of a podcast with 28 million downloads.
Yep.
And I just joined it today or signed up to it. Subscribed is the correct terminology.
Yep.
And there's only 16 episodes, and there's 28 million downloads.
Yeah.
28 million times it's been listened to.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so the real miner said to me this morning, my partner, he said, so when's Beers with the Miner going to have 28 million downloads? I said, yeah, no, never. But anyway, back to prospecting. I just wanted to quickly, like you said, you might find a bit that someone else has missed. Is there any way over the years where you've seen technology changes where you could go back and you can find more? Because I know... that's... Hang on a minute. You're making noise over there getting a rum. That's all right. It's all good. We'll just stop talking while you do that out of the plastic bag.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. Are you going to do a...
Yeah.
Yeah, you ready?
Yep. Ready?
Yeah. And rum.
Yeah,
cans.
rum bow today. Yep.
Rum and
because it's cold, wet. It's raining here,
it's
and so
beautiful,
can't do the beer in the cold weather. And
Okay.
Yeah. If the sun was out and that, I probably would have had a couple first off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Righto. So it's always changing because every if you go back, say, back when my uncle was doing it, when the first metal detectors ever came out, well, they were pretty robust machines back then, but you know the depth wasn't that good. But then it didn't have to be either because there was that much gold lying around. They worked fine then, but as all that surface stuff slowly got picked up over the next 10, 20 years, then it becomes harder and harder. Then you got to go for that stuff that's buried deep. So then you need the technology, which they keep bringing out. Oh, every year they keep bringing out new detectors that's better technology, and that's why you're able to keep doing it, because they just keep getting deeper. The only unfortunate thing is you got to dig deeper. You nearly got a cart of backhoe or digger in with you to dig it up. Like where I was lucky, that patch I found, it was just sitting there all on the ground pretty much. Oh, I like that. The big one, the 23 ounce, it was probably, I don't know, down about 200 mil in the ground, you know, you would have picked that up easily, I mean, I already found heaps of pieces there, so I already knew there was gold there, so when it started, but it was only a reasonable single then, but as I dug down, it just got loud and started screaming, But that's like when I found the first piece, it was like about a 2 ouncer, 3 ouncer or something, and it just nearly blew me eardrums, with me headphones there. And,
literally, it was really that loud?
Yeah, it was because it was just sitting on the ground, just a little bit of fine dust sort of thing over it, and it was that bloody loud. And normally what happens, or what it is when that happens, it's a bloody horseshoe. Because that big lot of steel, big mass of steel, and when you go along, you listen for them faint little twiggers, signals, and then all of a sudden, beep, you're like, holy shit. And then so that's what I thought it was going to be. And then when I bloody looked down and started scratching just a little bit, only took a little bit off the cert, and then I could see it. So I grabbed that one, and then I swung the detector there again, and there was another big loud signal. I got two right there in the same spot, and then I just started swinging the detector around, and everywhere I swung the detector, it was just going off. And then I could looked on the little pinnacle in between the two forks of the gully, and I could see gold just sitting on the ground there. So I just took I had me a Kubra hat back in them days, and and I just took my hat off because they wouldn't fit in my little specking jar that you have to put your little match head pieces in normally. They wouldn't even fit in that jar.
You've got to get a bigger boat.
Yeah. Yep, I think we're going to need a bigger jar. So I took my Kubra hat off, and I just started putting it in there, and then because I found only 20 minutes before dark, and then and so time dark come, I got that 23 ouncer and that 9.5 ouncer, and heaps of other bits and pieces, and then next minute 54 ounces in the Kubra hat. So we went home, never slept any that night, went back out there crack of dawn, crack of dawn, and picked up another 25 ounces in about an hour's time.
And who were you with when you did
My
that?
uncle and another old fella, his mate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the same, that old fella that told me only a few days before. He said, oh, no, there's... Because I just left Weeper and come down to Charters Housing, and he said, oh, yeah, no, there's no gold here. Left Willis all gone now, you know. Very hard to find a piece now. And then next minute... Yeah. So he had the permission for the property that we went on, and but I already split it with them because my uncle and him were down the creek still. They were going to be another 15 minutes walking back up to the car, you know. Yeah. And so I went up the car, had a drink, and I was going to start taking my detector gear off and that. And it was only that I seen the quartz reef on the other side of this gully that caught my eye and thought, oh, maybe I should just go and have a quick look at there. And it was weird, you know, like, because we parked right in front of this gully. Like 5 metres in front of me is where I found that patch.
Oh, wow.
And yet when we got there like a couple of hours earlier, we went walking like 500 mile away, down gullies, over hills and that, and, you know, and that's always the case. You always pull up somewhere and you think the gold's way over there. And quite often, when you read these Gem and Treasure magazines with all the stories, you'll be surprised like how many people say, yeah, I went out for hours and that, and I was coming back and just swinging that random sort of thing, not really paying too much attention, and just about back at the vehicle, and next minute, beep.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and that's how it happens.
And it was just there.
Yeah, like literally 5 metres in front of it where we parked the cars. I'm like, how funny is that?
Yeah.
So, and the only reason, because I was waiting for them to get back up to the car, that's the only reason I quickly, and I could have walked around the head of the gully, because there's only like, they're only like 5 metres each little gully there at the end of them, or I could have jumped down the gully in front of my car. It was like a bit of a cattle pad, so I opted that one, you know, so pure, a lot of luck, you know.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, that's the way the cookie crumble.
So when it comes to having permission to find it and all of that, I can imagine that's a bit of a...
Yeah,
like, how do you, you know...
you just ask
what
them.
are the
You just
words?
ask them, you know, and if they say yeah, all good, and if they say no, well, you just shoot them and do it anyway.
Maybe I will get my 27 million downloads.
Yeah.
Where did you hide the body, Will?
Yeah. Well, underneath that big green old tree over there, Neil.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, well, years ago, you actually used to get what you call a Fossiger's permit, right, which allowed you to go onto properties where you didn't need the property owner's permission. You just had to notify them. You did that like through the miners department. You filled out your paperwork, and you had to. The miners department actually sends it off to them. You know, I think, and they're notified in 7 days, and then they can't really stop you from going on. But over the years, there was always a lot of stuff going on with prospectors and property owners and that. So that's when they canned it in about 2001, I think, roughly. And then they come up with the Fossiger's licence, which... So you got to get the permission off the property owner now. And it's been that way, for 17 years or something now. And they sort of... on the back of it, like, they got to sign it, endorse it, sort of thing, the landowner. So, in one way, so it makes it a bit harder to get on properties, because of that.
Because they want their gold, or...?
No, that's the weird thing about it. See, most of the property owners only want the ground for running cattle, so you're not really hurting anything by going on there. You're just, they're not doing it, so, why can't you just go? You're not hurt. But unfortunately, it's like a lot of other things, like shooting, pig hunters and stuff like that, You get some people, they probably said, yeah, okay, you can go on. And then they, littered the place, left rubbish, beer bottles, tins, whatever, lying around the paddock because they're just hooning out for the weekend. And that's what ruins it for a lot of other people, see. And it's the same as prospecting, you get a few go in, they weekend warriors, you call them, and then they go in, they leave gates open because they don't understand, the rules of the bush and that, about gates and things. And and how much headache's going to be if them cattle in that paddock get out and go mix in with the other mob. Whereas I was lucky, I grew up ringing, when I was a young fella, so I understand that side of things,
So with the rule of the gate,
Yeah.
I'm not a bushy
Yeah.
person. My understanding of that is how you find the gate is how you leave the gate.
Yeah, leave a gate as you find it, yeah.
So if it's open, leave it open because
Yeah.
they want it open.
Yeah.
But some
But then you
other
just got to
mongrel
hope.
on the way
You just got to hope.
forward might have left it open. And
You
they
just got to
shouldn't
hope
have.
someone else didn't go ahead of you before you, and left
Yeah,
it
that's
open.
what
Then
it-
you
yeah.
go, oh well, I'll leave it open. Then the property owner just comes along and blames you for it.
Yeah, it was already open. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
It was, Will.
but I've had a lot of success, with just going up and introducing myself to the property owners, or ring them up, and just tell them a bit about myself and whatnot, and same as when I was roo shooting, pig hunting as well. So I've been that as well,
Yeah.
but not one of the bad ones.
No,
Not one of the
not a
ones that
weekend warrior.
no, because that was my livelihood when I
Yeah.
got out of mining there for a stint, back in early 2000 there, and so that was my livelihood. So I wasn't going to do the wrong thing, but they a lot of them didn't know me from Burra Soap, but I was just lucky that the bloke I worked for, he was from that district, and they had big properties, and everybody knew them, so they just ring him up for a reference, But I have had where I didn't know them, like when I was living down Miles there, and I went up prospecting around Krakow area there, and I just drove in this property owner's place and said, "Hey, I'm Joe Blow. Do a bit of prospecting on my days off. Just wondering if I could park my car on the side of the road and walk in like a few hundred metres." And then he's like, "Oh yeah, you're right, mate." He said, "Oh, you can drive your car and all good, mate." But that doesn't happen every day of the week.
Yeah.
Normally you're dodging bullets, like you start driving. Oh, yeah, better get out of here.
Actual bullets. Oh, speaking of when we were kids, just a little digress. This is one of my suburban stories, and another reason I don't like guns. Probably hadn't even thought of that. When we were kids, we used to, at the end of our street was an almond orchard.
Oh yeah.
Almonds, cause down in South Australia.
Yep.
And in the northern suburbs there, and we used to cut through it to go to school, and then in another part we'd cut through, get to the main North Road, cross the road to go see our friends as we got older. Anyway, there was an old Italian farmer in there and his family, and we'd just sneak, and we did used to pinch the old almond or two. God,
of course,
you
of course, yeah.
Almonds, yum, off the tree.
Yeah.
But mostly it was because it saved us a 20-minute walk to go right round. So we'd get in stealth mode and we'd go up against the fence and we'd go, "You go, no, you go," and we'd all do this big naughty thing and we'd run through. Anyway, I think he probably air rifle, I'd say.
Yeah.
But he used to shoot at us.
Yeah.
And then, I remember the old almond orchard caught fire once, and it turned out it might have been someone that we hung around with. Yes, not good. And then he died. We found out that he passed on, and the old mama, she didn't mind so much. She said, "I always used to tell him off. So, I knew you were just cutting through 4 almonds, bloody hell." But he was defending his patch. Yeah. I just wanted to ask about, with the permits and stuff, what happens if you find something on there? Does the landowner have rights over that gold?
No.
You don't have to give them a cut?
No, it's totally. You've got the permit, or the Foskers license, which they're called today. You got sole rights to it, and that, because the property owners actually only own like a couple hundred mil, of the topsoil, like the grass rot. They've only owned. That's why there's mines on properties today, because you don't own the minerals. Whether it's gold, coal, coal seam gas, any of that.
That's why I just wrote that
down.
Yeah,
because I had my property down at Miles, and I had 2 companies come on there. One drilled for coal, and the other one come in and was drilling, wanted to do clearing for the seismic readings that they do for the coal seam gas.
Yep.
So I actually had both of them come onto my property when I had it down at Miles, yeah.
Do you have to still? They have to have your permission to come in.
Yeah.
As part of their license,
they
but then what they
got
get
to have the
offered.
permission, but if you don't, like, you just got to try and work out an agreement between you. But at the end of the day, if it goes to court and that, they will eventually win out and be able to come on anyway. So it's just really like a peace treaty, like, well, what's your stipulations and that, and they just try and agree, meet in the middle sort of thing.
Yeah.
But see, they got guidelines they got to follow as well, like where they're not supposed to say drill or do any activity, say, within 200 metres of your property, your house, And I had that problem come up, whereas they wanted to drill like it was only about, 130 metres from my house, And so I had to make them move it, a little bit further down. And only mainly because I just started getting into the boar goats and that on my property, and right where they wanted to put this boar was drill hole was right in the middle of me main little goat paddock, that I just had to built sheds and things and all that for them, but they got quite a bit pushy actually. So we agreed on to go a little bit further. But the thing was, when they rocked up there, before everything was even signed, sealed and delivered, they'd start rocking machinery up on my property.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And I'm like, but see, I hadn't signed off on anything yet, and I would have done. I didn't have any real issues. The only thing I wanted was, because they said in the paperwork they sent me that you have right to claim ownership of that borehole when they finish getting their readings and that data out of it, right?
Yeah.
And as you know, like a bore on a property is worth, like to me to put that bore down, because it was like 160 metres they put that bore down, and there was water down there. Like I already had a bore just up the back of my house, but it was fairly deep as well, and the water was a long way down. And the one they put was they went deep for their sampling, but the water wasn't that deep. It was only like bloody 20 metres down. Anyway, but when I told the boss fella there when he come out, I said, "Oh yeah, well we just got to clarify and get signed off on that. I can take ownership of that bore when you're finished with it, and it's my problem then, not yours. I got to sign off on that." But then he tried to tell me that I couldn't do that.
What? Own
the bore. Because it purely come down because they don't want any liabilities to come back on them like years down the track. So, because what they wanted to do with it was when they finished doing it, they fill it in with cement and just block it off. I said, well, how crazy is that? I said, a bore is everything on a property. I said, no way in the world you're going to come on my property and drill a 160 metre bore and there's water and that in there and just fill it in with the concrete. I said, no way in the world.
And that'd be saving them money anyway.
He said, yeah, but, we don't want the liability down the track. I said, yeah, but hang on a minute.
Handing over the liability.
I said, but hang on a minute. But he tried to deny that it was in the contract, see, the original paperwork. I said, well, I've got the paperwork right at the house there, mate, if you want to go over it again. It says there in black and white that I have the option of relieving you of the liability. I said, so until we get that sorted, he goes, oh, right. He said, oh, can I just bring the drill rig in and we'll just sit it down the edge of the road a bit, and can I bring the backhoe in and the grader and all this and clear the little pad there where because where they set the drill rig up, they got to have like a couple of little slurry pits right beside the drill rig, and they got this X marks the spot, like that's where the drill's got to put the rod down in, and they got to have these pits off to the side of the truck, and it can only go one way, And yet I'm arguing with him the day before because I let him bring all the gear in and park it all there. I said, and let him do the pad and dig the little slurry sumps and that. And then but I felt like I was being muscled in on, they're pushing and kept asking me, oh, can we just bring this in? And the next minute that'd come in, oh, can we just bring the drill? They just rocked up. Can we just get him in off the road? And I'm like, yeah, okay, you don't want to be difficult. But I'm like, but hang on a minute, like you haven't answered me question about whether I'm going to have ownership of that bore when you finish. And he just tried to fob me off. So, and I reckon they would have started drilling the next morning. But what I did, I went down there like daylight and I parked my car right on X marks the spot.
Well, of course you did.
Yeah.
Oh, cheers. Well,
Yeah,
you got to
yeah.
have a bit of power as a
Yeah,
landowner.
and
Fuck
anyway,
me.
so and then I parked it right there, and I still had some old, like 100-year-old fences there that I needed to pull down. So I'm down there and I'm fencing away and that, and just keeping an eye on things. And then the drillers come in there, kind of like, "Oh, what's going on, mate? Old mate told us we had to park on there and start drilling." And I said, "Yeah, mate, sorry." I said, "Sorry to be a pain in the ass." I said, "But ain't happening, mate." I said, "That's old mate's fault." I said, "He just kept fobbing me off." Mm. Then he rocks up about 7 o'clock. "What's going on, Will?" Like, "Well, you tell me, mate. When are you going to sort this stuff out?" And I'd already been speaking to the solicitor the day before in that as well. And he told me, he said, "Yeah, no, they've already pushed their boundaries with you, and you've been nice and let them on and all that, and they're just playing with you now." He said, so I said, "Well, how about I just go and park my car down there?" He goes, "Yep, that's what I'd be doing." Yeah, and then so they couldn't do a thing, and then about 8 o'clock when my solicitor was open, he I ring him up, and then he goes, "Yeah, put that boss man on the phone to me," and then they had a big yak and that, and then next minute he had to get on his computer and send emails and all that, and signing that over to me, like the ball, and then he put me back on the phone and said, "Yeah, I got it all in email, Will." He said, you can let him go now. Yeah. But it shouldn't have had to come to that, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and there's a lot of farmers that wouldn't have the solicitor or the balls to go and park their car there.
Yeah.
Like imagine a couple in their 80s, or there's just one farming lady, or you know, and you see it on, you know, the current affairs shows and everything about all of this, especially the coal seam gas is.
It was quite funny, but because they had all their, like a little bit of a clearing area just down from the drill site where they put all their pipes and other bits and pieces they needed, you know. And I used to quite often come home from work after night shift and grab my rifle and walk right round me block and that, you know, chasing dingoes and that, like, because I had the goats, you know, so the dingoes used to play havoc with them a bit. Anyway, so I buddy walking around there one morning with my rifle, and then I was coming down towards that laydown area where the drillers were, and there's two fellas in there. They got a ute and they're loading a bit of gear on that, just talking amongst themselves and that, and they didn't see me or hear me coming that, and I come walking out through the bush with this rifle and go, "How you going, fella?" Well, they just about jumped out of their skin, and then I got this rifle and it looked like a scene out of Wolf Creek. And I got an old couple like that as well. They were parked, because I had a gazetted road running down through my property, and they've just like, "Oh, we'll just get off the main highway and go down this road here and pull over and have a cup of tea," you know.
Yeah, I get them at my place here all the time.
Yeah, and same thing. Like, I'd been doing the boundary run, and I've come walking up with me rifle, and they're sitting there and having a cup of tea and a biscuit. And then I was like, "How you going?" Oh, yeah. Oh. And I said, "Oh, you're all right, don't worry." I said, "I'm just a property owner." I said, "You're all right, you're all good." Yeah. But you can see the look in their face, like thinking, "Oh, this is it.
I told you we shouldn't have come here, John."
Yeah.
So, just back to the ball for a minute. You said, of course, as you know, they cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
I don't know that.
Oh, yeah.
How much? What would you cost?
To put that down, that would have been like 30 grand easy.
Really?
Yeah, they were there
because
for a
that was
while.
so deep.
Yeah, and then they put like I think it was bloody 8-inch casing, like down the fairway. They put that down 100 metres, casing down, and then that steel casing, and then they put a 6-inch pipe inside of that 8-inch, and they put it down 160 metres or something. Right. Yeah. So, yeah, and then when they finish and that, like I drop a bloody rock down there, and it doesn't go down far, and then like you could hear it splash, you know, like so it wasn't very deep at all. So I never got around to.
So it wasn't 160 metres.
Oh no, that's how deep they drilled, but the water was only like 20 metres down. Yeah. Whereas my other bore up the house, it was a lot deeper down the water.
And you only needed to go as far as the water.
Yeah, and it didn't have to be like a great flow rate or anything. You know, it's just like just enough for goats and that. Like, don't use much, you know. Yeah. So, eventually I was going to get cattle as well. Then I had the other mob come on doing the seismograph reading, and same thing. They, in their contract thing and rules and regulation, all that, they got to come in and they're going to do these like 100 metres apart drill lines, or seismic lines across my property, which is fine. But my bloody property was like scrubby as, hairy as, rocky, everything in places. Yeah. My block would have been probably had the most timber in the whole of Miles area there, because nobody had touched it for like 30 years timber-wise. Yeah. And I actually sold like a fair bit of timber off there, 15 grand's worth, and the fellow cutting there, he didn't even go far at all. Yeah. Like, I still probably had like 100 grand's worth of timber to sell on there, iron bark and that, for fence posts and whatnot. Yeah. But anyway, but in their contract, they reckon, agreement thing, they reckon they got to come on, clear these, they send like a big bloody mulcher machine through, and it just gobbles the trees up and spits it out the back wood chip. Yeah, we had that on the mine where I worked as well, on that Canby Downs one. Mm. And then they get, grader or whatever dozer come through, and they clear a track for this seismic reading machine. It's just like a little bloody bongo bloody safari bus type thing you have out in the mines there. Yeah. Personnel carrier. And in the back butt they got the all the implements, set up in there that read the ground. But they reckon when they finish, they got to spread all that wood chip back across the track and push all the, any other trees and that back out and like regenerate it, cover it all up. And I said, oh, no, that's not going to work for me. I said, if you're going to come in and put all these tracks in, I want you to just leave them the way they are. I said, because I'm making a series of goat paddocks, I said, so that's going to actually benefit me by me not having to worry about clearing all that. But then they try to tell me too that, oh no, we can't do that, sorry, this is what's got to be done. And I'm like, little did they know I've already been down this road with that other mine. And I'm
You'll
like,
do what I want.
Yeah. I'll say, okay, righto. So I'll ring up the solicitor, righto, this is what's going on. He goes, oh yeah, because the solicitors grew up, born and bred in that country. They grew up on the land.
And
so they know the lingo, they know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. That's all money, So he goes, yeah, no worries, we'll come in here and see me and we'll draw something up and we'll give it to them and that'll be the end of that. Yeah. And that's what I did. Yeah, so they could come in, but right about then, that's when I sold the property. And then, so I just got them to hang off until the property sold, and then they could carry on after that. Yeah, if, they could take it up with the new owner.
Them. Yeah. I think that might be a good spot to stop on. You need a cigarette by now.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
for sure.
I need a beer.
You're killing me here.
I'm killing you, but you lasted a lot longer. You know me now.
Yeah. All right, I'll go and have a smoke.
Yeah. Now for a word from our sponsor. Welcome Julia Hartman and the Bantax Accounting Group to Team Mad Mumsy. Julia is my awesome accountant. She has written 2 books with financial expert Noel Whittaker and has a passion to help us miners make the most out of our hard-earned cash. Head to bantax.com.au/miners. That's BANTACS to download your free miners booklet and a spreadsheet that will help you calculate the weight of your tools you need for your job. Why, you ask? Well, you might be able to hitchhike a ride with them and claim your trips to work. Sounds confusing? Not at all. Just head over to bantax.com.au and let Julia and the team help you out. You will also find loads of free information and advice on property investing if you plan to really do some great things with your money. Again, that's bantax.com.au/miners and tell them Mad Mumsy sent me. I've been waiting for you to come back so I can crack my beer.
All right, eh?
I'm dying of thirst here.
Yep.
We ready? Best sound in the world.
Yeah, geez. I was just out there, I was just having a smoke, killing myself. I was observing, you got like a little pot thing out, like a little, I don't know what it is actually, like some sort of little pot, it's got on a little stand there on the wine barrel. What can you tell me about that? Because as you know, I'm interested in all those sorts of stuff.
Yes, it's a cast iron fondue.
Righto.
A fondue.
Okay.
Do you know what a fondue is?
No, don't swear at me like that.
Hang on, I've got another one here. I'll get it.
No, because I've seen a lot of stuff in my days, but I've never seen that one. Yeah.
I grew up on these as a kid.
Yeah.
I believe back in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And you put oil in your saucepan, and then I never did all this bit of it. The man always did this bit. Yeah. But you put metho in there.
I have seen those before, but like this one's got the actual stand that supports that.
Supports it,
whereas that other one hasn't got it. So
hasn't.
That's why I was a little bit, Yeah, well,
that's what I think it is. But
then it's got the star-shaped sort of thing, you know, when you lift the lid and all that. And
with the...
And when you take the actual pot off, it's got like that star sort of shape too.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Well, is that to hold the forks up? Because, you know, when you have a fondue, you have fondue forks and you put your meat. What we used to have was a round table, and my parents used to do it Friday nights and stuff. With
I'm just going to let you have a bit of a go here because it's not all about me, you know.
No. Sometimes I take
over.
Right,
that's
and
enough.
I'm
Moving back onto my story.
And we used to have cut up bits of steak, pineapple, onions, stuff like that, and you'd load up like a kebab kind of.
Yeah, okay.
Load up your fork, dip it in the healthy as oil and fry it, and then you'd have a tray with all different sorts of sauce in it.
Yep.
And you dip it in, and everyone has different coloured forks, so you know which colour's yours, and everyone gets drunker and drunker. It's like my ex hated them because he was always starving, because you get like one forkful and it's taken such a mission to cook it and everything. Right, But they're great.
Yeah. Well, and because I was very observant too while I'm out there, you know, and I noticed you had like the mozzie coil on top, but it hasn't got the like your little
the little
you know, when you buy your and you put them on, and it just idea came to me when I was out there having my smoke. And now, if you get like your empty tinny, and then you fill it up with a bit of water, so it's got a bit of weight in it. You know, you don't want to leave like, you know, good beer or rum in there, of course.
Oh God, no.
But when your little pull tab, because I see you've got a few of them you pulled off, was in your little tray there, which I use for an ashtray.
Yeah.
But just come to what you do, I reckon. So if you haven't got one of those gadgets that comes with them, then you pull your little pull tab upright, and then you get a pair of tin snips or something like that.
Yep.
And you just nick it there, and then you just lift that, because it's only aluminium. Like someone your size should be able to bend that as well, and then it'll stick up just like the little thing where you sit the coils on.
Yeah,
and
I would.
Bob's your uncle. There you go.
Oh.
Handy little tip of the day.
Handy little tip of the day from Will. I was thinking you were going to say you could thread it through. Because even when you hold it
might
up,
even sit on.
That would thread through pretty good.
Oh, now you're stealing my thunder. No, I said cut it and.
That is a good.
Yeah,
but
no, that might work. Sorry, my mistake. You're wrong.
Oh my God!
That's one of my favourite lines when I'm out in the mines and that, and somebody's going on the two-way, and then I'm like, sorry, my mistake, you're wrong.
Oh, that's gold, because I can imagine you as a cheeky digger driver. Some of the stuff
I have my moments.
Cheeky, but
still
there's a line. Don't push me.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Or I'll smash. I'll drop a big rock in your back here. No, I don't do that. I never do that. I think it a lot of times. Cross my mind a bit, but no, I wouldn't do that. Yeah. No, I've been pretty lucky. I've only, over all the years, probably just dropped the odd rock accidentally in the truck. Because sometimes, like on them big diggers, you know, 996 or 9800s, sometimes you're buddy digging away there, and then, you know, and all looks fine, and then when you drop it in, next minute there's a big rock, like you didn't even see it in there, you know?
Yeah, that's what I said. Sorry, didn't see it in there.
And I've, only, you know, touch wood, clipped the odd truck here and there, you know? So I remember actually years ago, probably about 15 years ago, when I was at Norwich Park. I think I was on a Hitachi 2500 then, and I come around. I was only just not long started there, you know, so the other fellow was up there passing me out and that, and I come around, I clipped the side of the tray, like with the tooth, and it opened
with the trainer in there, the assessor.
Yeah, it might have been the assessor. It was just like another operator, I think.
Right, yeah.
And then and I come around, and the teeth on those 2500, like they're so pointy, and not like the big ones on the bloody big diggers,
Yeah,
and,
they're almost square,
yeah,
rectangle, aren't they?
And I hit right on the bloody, I think it was the bloody offside of the truck, right on the point of the tray, and it just opened it up like a can opener, Like it was only like probably, half a foot long, right on the point butt,
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, And then old mate goes, that's what I got Boilermakers Eddie for, mate. It's all good.
Keeping someone in a job. Yeah. So back to prospecting.
Yeah.
I was thinking, do you want to go into how you do it? Because in those photos, you showed us a lot of dredging photos.
Yeah.
So how do you do it that way?
Dredging?
Yeah. Or what do you want to share about the process of doing it? So we've talked about metal detecting.
Oh, well, just, yeah.
What else?
Well, because we knew there was, because my uncle sort of put me onto that spot there when I first learnt, when I was about 18, and there was just like a lot of small gold in amongst there as well. Like there was, bigger bits, but there was just heaps of alluvial in the gully.
Can you explain that for those poor people that don't know? I do.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's just like all your, match head bits, salt and pepper sort of looking stuff. Really finer stuff,
And is alluvial gold usually around water, and alluvial gold is more away from water, like deeper in?
Oh,
that's how I've had it explained.
Yeah, right. Oh, now you're getting in the nitty gritty things.
No, that's all right.
Gold's where you find
Gold's
it.
gold.
Gold's gold. Yeah, it's
Like
all yellow to me.
haze
All yellow to me. Yeah. But yeah, so because I'd done the pan and bit for a while, and then I got the metal detector I bought off my uncle there, and like I say, it was probably a couple of year old then, and he had two of them. So and he was getting a newer one, so better technology coming out right back then. And so I bought that one off him, and it still cost me $400 then, back in about 93 or something. Yeah. So, and I've still got that same detector today, even though I did give it to my ex-father-in-law there like 15 years ago, and then because I had other ones as well, because every time my uncle upgraded to the newest one, and that's how he did he did good, because he always updated when the newest one came out. He was smart enough to realise the technology and all that in it, so he kept updating. So I always used to keep buying his older one off him, so I get it like half price,
Yeah. And it's still it's still a pretty up there one, because he's only one ahead.
Oh well, I've got that one, and then I've got another one, and I've had them both for like 25 years or something now, and they still work as good today as they did back then. Obviously, just they're not as good as the ones put out today, because with the technology, they over the years, like it's a wonder we could even prospect back in them days, because the ground noises and that you used to get come through your head, you really had to just listen to your headphones, the signals, and it'd drive you barney, like the automatic ground balance ones, because you got two types. You got automatic ground balance, which are good, and then you got manual ground balance, Manual one, you got to be on the dials yourself a lot more, when the ground, because the ground mineralisation changes, especially like say if you're in the creek, in the floor of the gully, and then you try to go up the bank, well that mineralisation is changing, between the two. So you kind of either got to do all the floor of the gully for a bit, and then get out and then go up and do the banks or up above, and then you got to re-ground balance. But if you got an automatic ground balance one, well, you can be swinging in the gully and then up the bank, and it processes that automatically for you. Yeah.
And they'd be worth more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But that one, because my cousin bought the manual ground balance one, it's a white Goldmaster VSAT is what they call it, and the make brand is like white, and and it's called Goldmaster, but it's designed for finding like really, really small gold. And he bought it, but then he had it for about 6 months, brand new, and never used it, because he thought he was going to get into it, but he wasn't his cup of tea, really. And so I ended up, when I left Weipa, before I left Weipa, I actually just asked him if I could borrow it, because I wanted to try it out. And if it was any good, well, then I'd buy one myself. And I took it over there, and I found, that's over to the Wenlock Goldfields, and I found like 50 odd pieces of gold with this detector, which brand new back then, I think they come out at about $1,200. Mind you, like it sounds like a lot, 50 odd pieces, but they all only added up to about, I think 4 or 5 grams. Like them
grams. I thought you
them 50
ounces.
Odd pieces I found added up to only about 4 or 5 grams. But point being, they did what they say they can do. They can find. They're like
shit,
I can find with them like a quarter of a match head. But with that technology on the kilohertz, now we're getting technical kilohertz, which is
what we want to hear.
metal detectors run off of frequencies called kilohertz, and it could pick up these, but make them sound like they're a 1 ounce nugget, like they boom in.
Yeah.
But you got to be in the right ground conditions, like and you got adjustments and that, and depending on what ground, how noisy it is, where you tweak the machine up to suit the conditions that you're in. But if it's reasonably quiet ground, you can crank it right up, and where I was that time, it was pretty quiet there, and that's why it was sandy, loamy sort of material, and had all this alluvial running down through it. See, but they were like quarter of magic. You can nearly hardly see them, but yet on the detector they'll beep 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 beep. But the only thing is, I had to come up with another way finding them, because when you got that signal and then you kept digging around the dirt and then picking it up, you'd pick it up in your hand and check the dirt where you just got it from. The signal would be gone, so you knew you had it in your hand. But the only problem is you wave your hand across the detector coil. Well, your hand makes the same noise as that little bit of gold in there as well.
Oh,
really?
Yeah.
That is because it's that finely tuned.
Yeah.
So then I come up with this idea. I got this little piece of plastic, like a breadboard size bit of plastic, and then I put the pile, because if you put it on the ground again, you spend another 20 minutes trying to find the bastard.
Yeah.
So I come up with, put this handful of dirt on this bit of plastic, and I put 2 little piles there, and then I detect one, and then there's like nothing there. Then you detect the other one, beep beep. So then you get rid of that other pile that had nothing in it. Then you split that pile in half, and you just keep reducing and going through that process. It's a little bit time consuming, and then you get down to there where you got 2 little piles, and it'd be like 10 little crumbs of dirt there, and then you couldn't even see it still. Like especially if it's like dirty and got coated with ironstone or dirt or whatever, and then what you do on the end is you just blow really lightly on it, and then all the lighter stuff will blow away, and the last little piece sitting in the middle that didn't move, that'll be the piece of gold. Yeah.
Wow.
Like, that's tedious, getting down to that size.
Isn't that what panning does, though, when you get to those levels?
But panning you're doing when you got water and that, Yeah.
Oh, right. So that's a way of doing it when you haven't got water with you.
Oh, well, it's just a way of detecting, you're detecting, but it's just that particular detector, it's designed to find those little... Yeah, it's tedious, but then it's a little bit of gold's better than no gold.
Oh, my God, yeah.
And they all add up,
Yeah. Yeah, shit, yeah.
Yeah. Well, they reckon look after the cents and the dollars look after themselves,
Something like that.
Yeah.
Cheers, Will.
Mm-hmm.
So, from that, back again to my question about dredging. Is it dredging?
Yeah,
Those photos you showed me in the
that's
creek
right.
up
Yeah,
to
dredging.
your neck
Yeah,
with the machines around you.
Well,
What's going on there?
It's just that. It was a hot bloody day. All right.
Crocodiles.
It was. I'll just cut this right. Yeah. No, we had understanding. No, right there where I was dredging was way up in the gullies. Like, there's no
crocs up.
No, down in the main river there could be, because that's in the Wenlock River.
So this is
but
in the
little
creek,
gullies up the hill.
gullies
Yeah,
that
right up in the
feed
hills.
the creeks.
Yeah. If you got eaten by a croc up there, it just wasn't your day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that where a lot of gold comes from? It comes from the top of the mountains and then
Basically.
makes its way down.
Yeah. As you know, in the morning, shit flows downhill.
Yeah, and truckies at the bottom. Although I've heard drillers are pretty fun.
Drillers.
Stinking driller. That's for you, Rick. My number one Twitter fan.
Yep.
Driller Rick. Yeah.
Yeah, no, as the route. Yeah, well, that's how the old timers traced it years ago. You know, you start down the bottom in gullies, and they start getting colours. You know, then they pan their way up the creeks, and then there'll be a series of forks up the creek. You know, and they start going up one fork. You know, and then next minute the colours run out. Yep. So they come back, then they pan up the main gully again, and then another fork. Then they go off up it. Then it might start getting richer. Getting more and more in their pans all the time, and that's how they track it up. And then it'll run out of the gullies, and then they'll start doing little races around the mountains and that, you know. It's like little trenches they put level around the mountain there, and then when it rains, those little trenches fill up with water, and then they can pan actually up on the side of the mountains.
Oh, they pan.
Yeah, that's what they call water
race.
racing.
Instead of it going into the gullies and going down.
And then it's just all about pinpointing where the sort, and then all of a sudden there's a big cluster of gold right in this one little area. Well, then they'll put I was trying not to wreck your house. Then they'll put a
He's getting excited. He's waving his arms around.
Yeah, they'll sink a shaft in the side of the hill then, like because that's where the gold might have come out of the reef. You know.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, I can't tell you any more, otherwise you'll know more than me.
Well, that's why we're doing it. No. So I still don't understand about the dredge.
Yeah, well, the dredge is just
third time lucky. No,
yeah, the dredge is just another way of prospecting. That's all.
Yeah, so tell us.
Yeah,
about
well, it sucks. You know, you're using the dredge as like a vacuum machine, but you're using water. You know.
Yeah. And it's in the creek with you.
Yeah, in the creek. So because the gold all runs into the bottom of the creek when the wet season's on, and the water's all upheaval and that, it's like a big washing machine. And gold's heavy, as you know. If you don't, you do now. Yeah. It's heavy, and it's the only thing. The only thing that's similar is like mercury in its form, but gold is actually heavier than mercury because that's why they use mercury in the gold processing industry. Because like if you drop a piece of gold on a bit of in a jar of mercury, you got to have it in water as well. Then the gold penetrates into the mercury. It's weird, eh? Like you get a little piece of gold, like match head piece, and you drop it in the mercury. It'll just say like an old Vegemite jar or something like that, you know. But you can't just get that everywhere. Like
Vegemite jars?
No,
they're all plastic. They're all plastic now, Will.
Mercury.
Oh.
Jars of mercury. You could years ago, but not these days.
Are they in thermometers at the bottom of a thermometer?
That's correct.
So
yeah,
you smash all the thermometers and fill up your
it take you a long time.
Jar.
Take you a long time to get what you need. But I was just lucky enough that old fella that I was prospecting with years ago that owned that had the permission of that property. Well, he back in them days, like they used to sell it by the jarsful, you know, but they don't anymore. Yeah. So he had a fair bit of it. So he gave me a little bit years ago. But it's weird, eh? You can have like a Vegemite, let's say quarter full of mercury, and then you drop like a match head piece of gold in there, or it could be even like a fly shit, you know, and it will penetrate into the mercury, and then you drop like a bolt or a nut and drop it in, and it'll just sit there and float around on top of the mercury, and nothing will happen. Yeah, and that's why they use mercury, because mercury collects the gold. Because it's heavier than mercury and will penetrate it, see?
Yeah,
but
right.
nothing else will.
Well, there you go.
There you go. Yeah.
So that's in the gold, in the process, like what
you're getting off the beaten track now. Let's get back to the dredging.
Yeah, get back to the dredging. Oh, listen to you get back to the dredging. I tried for 10 minutes. Okay, go.
Yeah, right. So
why mercury and dredging?
No, you don't use mercury in dredging. We just got off the sidetrack there.
You did.
Yeah. So the dredging is it's just another way of putting a lot of material through.
Yeah.
Well, it's quicker than panning, that's for sure.
Same kind of idea.
Like panning is only ever used, well, back in the old days, that's all they had. Yeah. But then they do it on a larger scale where they use their long toms and that, which would be made out of a hollow log, and then they put little ripples in it and that, and then when the rain's on, they'd shovel the dirt in there and pump water over there, and a lot of times even then, because they didn't have a lot of pumps back like 100, 150 years ago, so they actually just lay that log down at water level, so the water's flowing, the creek is flowing through the log, and then they just shovel the dirt in, and all the lighter material just washes away, and only the heavy stuff, and the gold, stay in the long tom. Yeah, which, is a sluice, but we just got modern day ones, and with the dredge, it's just like speeding the process up a bit. Yeah, so instead of shoveling all the stuff in there, you're actually sucking it up, vacuuming it up off the bottom of the floor. Yeah, and then it all goes up into the header box, gets smashed around over a little oversized screen and stuff and that, and then the finer stuff goes in through the tray, and then all the shit goes away and the gold's left in the tray.
Oh, right. Yeah. And you just sit on the side of the bank having a beer watching it?
You just sit in the creek and...
in the creek, that's right.
Yeah. No, I actually didn't drink that much back in them younger days, yeah.
True. Yeah. Making up for it now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I didn't. Yeah, I only maybe once a fortnight, like on a Friday, Saturday night or something, I might have a drink. Yeah. But in the younger days, I didn't really drink much. Yeah.
You're too busy doing all your other stuff.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, I did. I went mining, and just stressed me out, and then I had to, resort to hit the drink. Nah.
Binge drinking miners. My grandson he was about 11 at the time, and we got a couple of buckets of sand out of a mate's creek at the bottom of a mountain, and my grandson had been watching one of the gold shows on telly, one of the first ones that come out that we got to see, where they gold strike or whatever it was called, up in the mountains, and there were the families, and what was it? Anyway, they were doing all of that. So we got him a pan, but then what he ended up doing was making I thought it was quite clever. He had a bit of wood. He got a big bit of ag drain without holes in it. Yeah, it didn't have holes. And but you know how it has the ripples on the inside?
Yep.
And he nailed that onto the bit of wood and cut it open at the bottom part of it, and then water and fed all of it through and hosed it through and got some gold out of it.
Yeah.
And or fool's gold might have been.
Same thing, but all them ripples, acting as a catchment,
Yeah. And because the gold's heavy, he learnt that gold's heavy. Right. This is what they do. It goes along the thing. And
I got my own little gold shaker in my container at home there. I made it when I make that, about 97, I made that. Yeah. Yeah, because that old fella up Charters Towers, he had one that he used to go out town there and grab a couple buckets of material, which hopefully might have some gold in it, and then he'd bring them back home and put it through his little gold shaker, which he had set up down under a old Chinese apple tree there at Charters Towers, and used to pump the water up from an old mine shaft not far from there, and he had a little header tank, like a little water tank.
Yep.
And then he'd crank up his little gold shaker, and that's actually after I'd found that patch that time, and then we got all the bigger ones out, and then we got down to where they were lots of match head size, and we go, this is getting too tedious, So I just grubbed all this dirt, picked it all, shoveled it all in the back of my ute, and he had a heap of these 20-litre drums he used to get from the roadhouses, the cooking oil.
Oh,
and they used to just put them out the back and that, and he used to go around and get them off them. And so I filled up a heap of them, and the back of my ute, I just shoveled it all in there, and then we took it around to his place, and we spent a few days putting all that dirt through his little gold shaker, and that's how we got the rest of the gold out.
And how much did you get out doing that way, do you reckon?
Yeah, another quite a few ounces, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome, isn't it? So, yeah, that's...
And so I ended up building one myself. I had to go around and get all the steel and wood and bits and pieces. But the hardest thing I had to tracked down was the clutch for the that you, because the shaker's running off a little, like, say, 2-horse Bridge and Stratton motor, and it's got a side shaft coming out, and you put a pulley, which then you put, say, onto a chain, like on a push bike chain, and sprocket and all that, and it's offset like 1/4 of an inch instead of centre, so that's what gives it the shake, because it's off balance a little bit. Yeah, and but you want to be able to stop the shaker when you want to, so you need a clutch set up. So, and what the old fella had on his was, years ago, the old lawnmowers, they had a clutch set up with a little pulley and belts to, when you want to drop the blades in, you drop the lever down and the belt takes up the tension and starts driving the blades. So I had to hunt around to find one of them, because they were starting to become like antiques then.
Oh, right.
But he goes, I know this old mate of mine, he's got a couple of miles down the back. I think he's got one of them. So I went around there and asked him, but he thought a bit reluctant, and I ended up buying off him, only like $20 back then. But
did you buy the whole mower?
No, just the clutch set up
Yeah.
on it. Yeah, and that's, yeah, and I've still got my little gold shaker today, and I built that about 97.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I used it a bit when I was up the towers, but then when I left there, I haven't really used it anymore. But yeah, I'll never get rid of it.
That's a good option if people are thinking about prospecting.
That's
I like the idea of going out there in the heat and the shit and that, and getting it and putting it in cooking oil drums in the back of the ute, coming back and then doing it somewhere nice with a bit of a view and a beer and under a tree.
Yeah, you can only really do that at home and that, because you can't really do that actually out on the properties where you're getting the gold, not unless you got a mining lease, because that little gold shaker then is classed as like equipment, and then you got to go into a mining lease, not a Fossiger's license, because Fossiger license only allows you to use hand tools and metal detectors and picks, shovels, crowbar, gold pans, that type of thing.
Dredges?
Yeah, no, definitely no dredges. Yeah, no, they got banned. Yeah, quite a few years ago.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
I think
Because of people.
I think
like
I
you.
was on the borderline when I was dredging.
But you did say you weren't doing that too often. Mainly on the hand tools.
Yeah.
Yep. Cheers, Will.
Yeah, cheers.
This is good. I'm learning heaps.
So yeah.
So how often do you get out about and do it now?
Oh yeah, well I haven't done as much as I'd like to lately, but I am working on it. Yeah. No, I've been a bit quiet lately. Well, probably only every 4 months or so lately, sort of get out and that. Just like go somewhere close, like Claremont or.
Yep.
And actually, I want to go back over there again shortly, because they just released a new bit of ground over there under the general permission area at Claremont. Yeah. So it'd already be getting hammered now. It's just that the other bits of ground over at Claremont, they've been hammered, for donkey's years, So it makes it hard to find a piece, Like it's when I used to be up Weeping, you go over Cape York, you're going over ground where hardly anybody's ever been before,
Yeah. And that's where you can find a patch.
Yeah,
where
that's
it's
right.
Just
But when you're
on
going to areas where every man their dog, goes, because a lot of people from down south and that, like Sydney, Melbourne, all them areas, they all come up here and do their prospecting and that, and they all go to the caravan parks out there and they all flog them areas, But yeah, it's if you haven't got a lot of properties, well, it's still a good place to go, because you got the permission, because they've already, you buy like a kit over there, and they've already sourced the property owner's permission for you.
Oh, okay.
But they've actually put aside like 1,000 acres of their land, and allow you to go on there. You don't even have to go and see them. You just get your permit or your Fossiger's license, and then you buy your kit off of them, which is it's all through the council and everything over there. So so it's one way of being able to go out there and prospect, and everything's above board, and you don't have any dramas, So
And it's not that far out. How far out? For those that don't know, you
Claremont.
describe where Claremont is.
Oh well, from Mackay
in Queensland.
Yeah, it's about 2.5 hours run, roughly. Yeah, so it's not
Pretty
that
much
far.
west.
But if I go there, well, I work out over near that way anyway, at Dysart, Queensland. So, the universe, yeah. So
It's just a bit. You'd just go
I
straight
could just
from
go,
work.
yeah, just go straight from there, you know. That way it's only, it's not even an hour's run from there,
Yeah.
really. Yeah.
And what about Alpha? That's another big place where they do all that sort of stuff, isn't it? That's a bit further south.
No, well, Alpha's, yeah, no,
Where
it's
is
more,
Alpha?
it's more west of Claremont.
Is that what? Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
from
little-
Emerald.
Yeah, it'd be
More
yeah,
west
yeah,
of Emerald.
west of Emerald and southwest of Claremont, roughly. I think. Yeah,
Yeah, because that's
yeah, but
where
I think that's going to
Adani's
be
Carmichael's
more
near there.
coal. Yeah. So
But I was living in Emerald for a bit there, back in a past life, and a lot of people used to go to Alpha.
they're probably
And
still getting over it.
No, I know someone that is. Oh dear. So, what else do we need to know about prospecting? What else do you want to say about that?
Yeah, well, it's just, it's a good pastime, and if you like the outdoors and that, and yeah, it's a great hobby, and can be rewarding at times. And yeah, that's what aiming to do. Say maybe another 4 years time. Like I still do it between then, but full time. That's my plan B for get out of mining.
Or escape plan?
Yeah. There's something, I've been wanting to do for a little while now, and, I probably could have done it 4 years ago, but I didn't, and probably still kicking myself now, because I could have been on the TV show that's over in, the west there. Yeah. Because that's why I want to go over the west as well, like I haven't been over there yet, like Carl Gourley, Kilgardy and all them places, but my uncle had been over there quite a few times, and and he did pretty good. Just the country's a lot more vast and open there, and like up in Queensland here, like you got a lot of trees and grass and everything, but it's only this time of the year, like when it's really before the rains come, it's hot and dry, but then it gets too hot. But it's a good air. It's good because there's no grass, because usually, as you know, like all the fire's been going on. So once the grass is burnt, well, then obviously that makes it a lot easier to detect, because you haven't got the grass to contend with.
So all the
So it's a
prospectors out there.
prospector's
get out
paradise, but it's a property owner's nightmare, like, because then they got no grass for their cattle, obviously. So it's a double-edged sword, that one. Yeah. So.
But the rain that we're having is.
Yeah. Yeah.
This grass grows back pretty quick, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's
we don't want too much that it washes all the soil away, though.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
so that's,
your escape plan.
Yeah, definitely. Just want to go prospecting full time. Probably, just have to leave it maybe another 4 years when I due for my next long service. Then, so I think I'll give it a crack then. And have about 6 months off, I suppose, and give it a go. And if it doesn't work out, well, I'll just come back to mining, I suppose. If not, if I do all right, we'll just keep at it.
Keep at it, yeah. Well, cheers, Will.
Yeah, no
Thanks
worries.
so much. It's been
thank you.
Great to chat with you once again.
Yeah.
And for those, I'll just remind you, listen to the first episode, because, oh my God, there's crocodiles, there's all sorts of shit goes on in there in part 1. That's Beers with the Miner. Hang on, that's madmumsy.com/beers52, and the show notes for this will be beers53. And
I'll give you
will
2
see
little
the
blips in my
videos.
life. Yeah.
Yeah, 2 little blips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
we
we'd be
can
here
have
all
the-
year if I told you my whole life story.
I know, right? But we've got to keep relating it to mining, because that's the podcast. However, I've got 20 million other podcast ideas inside of me. So
That's
I'll
where
keep
gold
you on
ties
my
in.
list.
See, gold's mineral mining, see?
Of course,
So
yes.
I'm leaving mining and I'm going mining.
You are.
Yeah.
No, you.
Mining gold, but working for yourself, there's a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not working
I can
for
get
the
up
man.
myself, and I can get up when I
You
want
can
to
get up yourself. Go and get up.
Yeah. Well,
get
probably,
out there and get to work.
probably have to, because I've got to go and find some gold to buy some food to get something to eat.
It would make you do it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, No, that's my dream anyway, and yeah, hopefully
Yeah.
put it into place shortly.
In the place, and that's a good thing I always talk about is, you know, what is it that you like doing, and how often are you doing it? How often are you actually doing what is your happy place?
Yeah.
It sounds like this is one of your happy
Yeah.
places.
Well, and it's not only that you just go and prospecting and that's it. Like then I'll go out there and then you'll be set up camp somewhere, or it might be another old fella, you know, like my uncle, be just camped over there, and then you meet up, you know, you go and start having a yarn, and then next minute you think I can talk. Next minute their stories start coming in, and I just gobble all that stuff up. I just love sitting there listening to the older fellas talk and that, and and then you got, like I say, you got all your relics that you find as well. So it's not just go and find gold and that's it. There's a whole lot more.
Yeah, it's camping. It's great outdoors.
Just being out there. Yeah, and then you can mix it up and do a bit of prospecting, and then you go, oh, bugger it, I'll just chill out and go fishing for a day or two now, you know, like, So, there you go.
Sounds awesome. I want to go.
And that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's you. Cheers, Will.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks so much. I think you should start a podcast about all of that yourself.
Yeah, well,
No, you're pretty
never
good.
say never.
For someone who didn't know what a podcast was and was scared of the microphone, thought I was going to write all this down. Can you imagine? I would have writer's cramp.
Yeah.
All right, we'll call it a day now, Will. Thanks so much. It's been an
worries.
absolute pleasure and an honour, and I'm glad that you said g'day to me on the bus.
Yeah,
on
thank
the way
you,
to the
and
fishing
thank
tour.
all the listeners out there, and I hope you get something out of it.
Yeah, we will. Thank you. Cheers.
Bye.
Yeah.
Love yous.
Oh, mean it. And there you have it. There's our wonderful chat with Will, part 2. There's a lot of gold in there, and actually real gold, hey, and other stuff too. So how about you get all your prospecting gear out, head out, and see what you too might be able to find. You might not have to go back to work. How cool would that be? I'd love to go out and have a crack at doing this, but I don't want to go when it's this bloody hot, that's for sure. Anyway, we'll finish it off there. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, if you are enjoying the podcast, to please subscribe on whatever app you're listening to so you don't miss an episode, and of course any ratings and reviews would be great. I'd love for you to also share with your mates, and until next time, please stay safe, be real, be special, and have fun, for we only live once. Cheers. Oh, and P.S. don't get too cranky when you're shopping over Christmas. We all have to be nice to each other and get through it. And you can do it too. Help make someone's day. If they're busy at the checkout or something, just say, you're doing a great job. That's what I do. And bring them back into the zone and have a smile. Have a smile with people, especially the young ones that are going to be working over the school holidays coming up here in Australia. Anyway, that's enough from Mad Mumsy. Catch you next time. Bye.